for the interview.
¿Listo?
You could if you want to get changed.
Washington.
But I mean, like, we can't even tell. I have to put my hair in the back so I can tell.
Pues no necesariamente, güey, no necesariamente. O sea, yo lo voy a empezar en Nueva York, güey. Y vamos a estar
It's warm.
güey.
You might be warm in it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's more warmer than your
Y por
two
recuerde
shirts.
él, dijo, güey, qué pedo, de que jálate.
Is it warmer than the two shirts?
Ok.
This is very light.
De que tú me jalo, pero de que pedo, de
Like
que
linen?
tú te mueves.
No.
Dijo que sí, de que yo.
Isn't that like warm weather material?
Before,
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that this is from Vinyl Motion. Well, you need the design, but Vinyl Motion like bottom for all of us.
Oh, thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
Gracias, Alan.
Alright. Ponme asiento.
Judy le trajo bello facial.
Sí. Estrenando barba, ¿eh?
Lucito Pedero. Bro, ¿por qué no te bajas uno de esos? Sí, güey. Va.
Aquí no existe, bro.
O en el blog no te sientas.
No, por supuesto.
A ver.
Agárrate un blog.
Adelante, un blog de.
Ah, sí, güey.
Dicen que no se ve YouTube, que se ve todo oscuro.
No, pues aquí sí está bien.
A ver. There's.
Now we're matching.
Ah, no, sí, ya. Sí está.
Déjame siento bien.
Estamos en vivo.
¿Sí está bien? ¿Se ven padre y todo?
¿El agua no sale?
¿Sí?
¿Te vas a unir? ¿Te vas a unir?
Is there another water?
I don't know, man.
Do you want to sit?
No, no. Somebody's not water.
Pues, ¿sabes
This
qué?
one?
Cosas que nos pare. Que nos
Yeah, you can take it.
Nos
I don't know.
apretamos.
I
sí,
said
nos
use
apretamos.
it. Water.
I mean, yeah. If you're using it, you're using it.
Right.
You know, you could be doing other things besides drinking it.
You're already live, though.
So,
I think
Using
that's
it to wash your
appropriate.
car?
Yeah, I could be
Okay.
using it to wash my hands.
That's
To,
true.
I don't know.
estoy un poco fuerte. Está un poquito fuerte.
Thank you for the shirt. Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, he's just so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, they're really
Thank you so
cool.
much, dude.
Muy bien. Estamos en vivo, transmitiendo desde la Ciudad de México. Muchas gracias a todos los presentes acá. Muchas gracias, Ana Morgan y Homesick. Thank you very much for this opportunity, for this experience. This is a very special meeting for us. We have to say that we are very excited. This is a collaboration between BLDS, Footworks and Networks, the radio show, and of course, Footwork Jungle. And we are very excited to be here with Ana Morgan. Thank you very much. How are
Thanks
you?
for having me. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here in this city, especially with Sean. This is exciting for us too, to be like touring together with the Footwork Jungle name.
Yeah, it's crazy. Thank you very much. How are you, bro?
Doing great. Yeah. Should I?
Um,
How should the microphone sharing situation?
Okay, you can
be?
take
You
it.
can use that one.
Can you take it? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll pass this back and forth.
Cool. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling wonderful. I'm so excited to be in Mexico City. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to tonight.
That's great. Thank you very much, Alan. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Daniel.
Gracias igualmente, güey, por el espacio. Estoy demasiado contento que hayan estado estos canijos aquí.
Claro, es una locura. Venga, Dani.
Wup, wup. Todo bien, mi Eric, todo bien. La verdad, bien contento. Lo que llevo aquí en la Ciudad de México, no sé, estamos reunidos aquí toda la familia Basehead de la Ciudad de México, del país. Está aquí DJ invitada, Golden, Koi, Sora Mounts, Juke Dealer, Deep Linking, Ana Marciana, Rafinsky. Estamos nosotros aquí. Por hace rato estaba Papitas, estaba Ranma. ¿Qué les digo? Es nuestro cumpleaños. No,
Yeah.
súper bello, ¿no? O sea, lo que sea que suceda el día de hoy va a ser algo muy familiar y muy chingón. Entonces, arranquémonos.
Muy especial, claro. Well, we have a few questions. This is more like a friendly conversation, but we want to explore a little bit more about some topics. Because we have this kind of opportunity. Of course, we love music. Of course, we love to party, and that's great. The party and the rave, of course. But this kind of moments, this is something a little bit for us, and that's why we are thinking about this kind of dynamics to know more about you guys. And do you want to start with some questions
Yeah,
for our
absolutely.
guests?
Okay, so I think a good starting point will be talk about the last time that we all met. We were at Radio Nopal. Shout out to Radio Nopal. Much love to the community there. And Worst Behavior was here in Mexico City for the first time. That was like a really special date because it was basically the first time that Billy and I did a collaboration with the Juju Club, the same club that we are playing tonight. Well, that you guys are playing tonight. So and that date, getting to know you, Belcure and A Fruit was kind of like I don't know, like a strong moment for the bass community here in this country and this city. So I don't know if you can tell us a bit what you remember about that date.
Well, I remember just meeting everybody and just thinking that was really cool. I remember that we kind of spoke about the connection between Curve, A Fruit, and myself, and the origins of Worst Behavior. And by that point, I think we put in a lot of work to get A Fruit her visa to be able to do that tour. Right. So we were on a month tour, and that included one date here in Mexico City, which was really cool for her to be able to also be on this side and not just be in the US, but also to be able to get her to see a city in Central America was a lot. Very cool.
Yes.
Mostly I just remember a lot of really good vibes and feeling like I had just kind of made a lot of new friends. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. That was a really special date. We remember we took a picture that one day. We want to retake it because we hadn't been together, I think, all of this fam since that day, I mean, we've been together online, and the whole pandemic has been strong and has forced us to resort to online resources, online platforms, but nothing compares being flesh to flesh. Does that sound weird?
Flesh to flesh.
No, it's cool. Y estamos tratando también de explorar un poco la idea de el momento pre-pandemia, that exactly moment before the pandemic starts, and that fucking moment. What can you share with us, Anna, about your experience between that moment? Because you were in Mexico City just before the whole situation began around the world. And then what happened? How was your experience in the middle of the silence? Everybody was in their houses. And how do you feel about that experience right now?
Well, it was very life-changing, obviously, for all of us going through that experience together. In some ways, I guess it was a big equalizer. It brought a lot of important conversations to the forefront. One of them being about representation in music, especially. I think also important conversations about mental health in the music community. And it was, let's see, my last show was Mardi Gras or something, in NOLA. And then I was just home, and I had been kind of traveling for a long time. So initially I was just honestly grateful to have a little break and be at home, because none of us knew how long this thing was going to go on. And then it got really scary because I'm from New York, and it hit New York really hard. So my partner at the time was really paranoid about, I had to cancel my shows and stay home a month before lockdown was being mandated. And so I didn't know how long it was going to go on. So at first it was kind of inspiring, as in like I was like making a lot of music because I was actually just home for the first time. But then I got like really depressed, and like I never watched TV, and I watched like everything on Netflix. I felt like, because I just didn't know what I was doing about anything. So I was like lost for a while. But now I feel in some ways still just like it's a big mystery in some ways, like still processing. I feel like there's some things I'm grateful for, and then some things I'm just like, what exactly is happening? And I'm still feeling like I'm trying to get my feet on the ground.
Yeah, that's for sure. Do you want to share some of your experience?
Sure.
In Canada, Calgary.
Yeah, well, it was pretty frustrating for me. I had like finally figured out I had some releases ready. I had a tour in support ready. I had gotten my U.S. visa for the first time, which was set to be active, I think, 1 week before all the borders closed. So that was a bit of a shame. Yeah, and there was just like it was going to be kind of my there was so much touring that I had planned that year, and yeah, it all just kind of went up in smoke. And yeah, it hit me, I think, kind of similar to the way that you describe. And my reaction, in addition to watching too much TV, was I just went dark for a little bit. I just took 2 years off, and yeah, just like focused on visual arts and just like removed myself for a little bit. And it was refreshing. It was sad, but it was, reflecting on it now, I think, necessary.
Okay, that's cool. And this moment is related to this fake video we were talking about.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, the fake video. So during that time where I kind of stepped back from music, I dove into a lot of like artificial intelligence and just writing, Python scripting to do interesting stuff with it. And yeah, I made that fake video, and you described that you like it, and thank you.
That's amazing, bro. That's one of my favorite videos, and yeah, thank you for sharing that, because it's pretty that it's related to the pandemic world and all that kind of stuff. But it's crazy how can we turn the dark into the light. So thank you very much for sharing this experience.
Thank you.
In a lot of ways, I just want to say what you just said, turning the dark into the light. I think that's what art is, right? Like in a lot of ways, it's like processing the like stuff and like making something beautiful out of it.
Y en ese sentido, o sea, como al momento de preparar esta entrevista hemos hablado como del tema de un momento tan oscuro como la pandemia, los beneficios que ha traído ahora que todo está como reseteado, o de alguna forma hemos visto algo de lo que discutíamos, ¿no? Los aspectos de diversidad, de equidad de género, varios aspectos que en la agenda de nuestras plataformas pues ha venido a la alza después de un momento tan difícil.
Claro, incluso desde el aspecto creativo, no sé, o sea, la pandemia empezaron algunos fenómenos en el ámbito musical como el Bandcamp Friday, ¿no? Sí. Y Bandcamp Friday significó, no sé, como un despertar musical, creativo, productivo para, pues, para muchos de nosotros, ¿no? Sí. No sé, por ejemplo, a mí me tocó darme cuenta que ni siquiera tenía una cuenta de Bandcamp, ¿no? Y que yo llevaba años involucrado en la música, sintiéndome como súper activo, y me di cuenta que no había estado nada activo en cuanto a sacar música, ¿no? Claro.
¿Quieres compartir un poco de eso en inglés?
Sí, claro. O sea, like, sorry, we're kind of like doing some Spanglish here for everyone watching out at their homes, and also for the people who's gonna watch this after today. So yeah, like creatively, it was interesting. Like the pandemic kind of like taught us how important was music, you know, and how unimportant could be like nightlife. I mean, like saying that nightlife depended a lot on partying, you know, and alcohol and drugs, for example. and music depends on creativity. So when, for example, something like Bandcamp Friday started like going on, like in my case, I realized that I didn't have music out, you know, even though my relationship with electronic music, like I thought that was about creating music, and I realized that it hadn't been like that, you know, and that was like kind of like a motivation for me to reshape my relationship with music and realize what I wanted to do, you know. And now that everything is back, well, almost everything is back. A lot of things have been lost for good and for bad. I try to have like an approach that is more about creating, you know, and creating, and even at nightlife, at parties, also creating something of value that is not ephemeral.
I don't know how to say that.
Efímero, banda. Ahorita lo googleo. Something that is not just superficial, that the party can be, you know. So, for example, I try to record the sets to get some video, you know, like just to have some archive, and make sure to print posters, for example, and make sure that not everything is online, only online, you know.
Y bueno, en relación a este proceso prepandémico, postpandémico y los cambios que ha habido en la agenda, tenemos ahí una lista como de las temáticas que hemos siguiendo para esta entrevista. Y, well, we want to talk about about this experience in the middle of pandemic and the reorganization of all our networks. Can you share about a little bit of your experience of this moment in particular into the future? For example, Footwork Jungle. How do you feel, Anna, about the reorganization of the platform, and what kind of things do you think that are changing since that moment into the present now? What do you feel about the process of changing moment in this, not only in this platform, but in all the platforms around the networks and the electronic music?
I'm not sure I understand the
Yeah.
question. I'm sorry.
No, excuse me, because my English is so weird. And
Your English is great.
yeah, I'm trying to ask you about the moments and the things that, you know, after and before. Yeah, right. What do you think?
Like how has Footwork Jungle? Like, first of all, I think for you to talk about Footwork Jungle a bit, so the listeners, what are we talking about? Footwork Jungle. We're not only talking about like the genre of footwork jungle, but Anna and Sean, they run this platform, really well-known platform called Footwork Jungle. So you tell us a bit about like when did you started it and what kind of things had happened around it?
Sure. So I started Footwork Jungle in 2010. It was around the time that I first started my obsession with the sound.
Right.
And it was kind of at first just me giving myself an excuse to dig and to find new music and just document it along the way, share it with my friends.
What kind of music were you into before going full Footwork Jungle?
Before I discovered the sound, I had an earlier music moniker where I would produce a lot of jungle and breakcore.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was in like my late teens, early 20s. That, you know, it was very chaotic and very all over the place. Juke and Footwork Jungle, as it were, kind of appealed to those parts of me that liked, you know, something as crazy as unhinged as breakcore and gabber, but in a way that is a lot more tame and enjoyable. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Who were the first one who released, like, has it always been like a mix series?
No, at first it was literally just a Tumblr.
Okay.
Where I was just reblogging stuff that I liked. And eventually it just turned into a series because there were people like asking me to host their mixes and stuff like that. And so it only seemed natural to start a mix series. And so it kind of eventually lifted off from Tumblr onto SoundCloud, onto, I think it's like still mostly a SoundCloud first and foremost.
Yeah.
That's where we host the mix series. That's where we're doing premieres. It got to the point where it was difficult for me to continue developing it. And Anna offered to come and be part of it.
Yeah.
And
Around
it's
what
1,000
year?
times
Like
better now.
18? 19?
So like 2016, 2017.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah.
Basically, I was asking him for a premiere for Worst Behavior, and he's like, "I'm not active anymore," and I was like,
Let's get active.
"This is my favorite blog." What do you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean you're not active?
And he was like, "Yeah, I think I got maybe." He was like, "Well," I was like, "What if I?" He was like, "Yeah, I don't think I can even upload it because I'm not paying for it on."
Right.
And I was like, "What if I just give you the money for it and then you can just do it, right?" And he was like, "Do you want to just help me with it?"
Talk about some collab.
And then I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, let's do it."
Amazing.
And,
which episodes do you think have been special?
like in the mix series?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I think it's maybe different from person to person. The DJ Earl one was one of the big ones for me when I was before I knew you, and I was just paying attention to the blog. I listened to that on repeat for like weeks.
One of my favorite ones is the Being in Motion one.
Yeah, I killed it.
Golden also got like, yeah.
We got quite a few Footwork Jungle mix series in the room.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I asked Peel for one a long time ago, but now she's moved on.
She's been taking pictures. No, definitely, and I think that it's such a strong point of reference, for Footwork and for Jungle. I know, like even the name, it's so strong for people who start getting into music. The first thing, I bet that if you Google Footwork Jungle, you're gonna end up like stumbling into Footwork Jungle, and it's basically one of the best reference of the sound.
Yeah,
so it does make sense.
The term was coined by Ohm Unit, right? I think it was his Philip D. Cake project.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of awakened a lot of people to like, oh, this makes sense to put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like match BPMs, right?
Yeah.
Match 160s. And how do you think it has switched? Like in 2020, like a lot of thoughts around the BLM movement brought up some topics like appropriation and so definitely like footwork, like black music, like footwork, like jungle, club music, house music. It has been like a strong topic around, So how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, all of it is black music, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that we have to remember, and that's important, is that none of these things, like even the Footwork Jungle sound, jungle music, very much, if you look at the old 90s UK jungle flyers,
right,
there's sometimes even like a black hand and a white hand.
Right.
It's about unity.
And
it's about people creating something together, coming from different places and creating something together. And that to me is one of the things I've always loved about music, is how it brings people together and how we're better than the sum of our parts. So people are coming with what they have to offer, their experiences. And so while, yes, this music has its origin in Black culture and Black music, a lot of it jungle, techno, footwork wouldn't exactly be where it is today without everybody's efforts.
Mhm.
And I think that's an important part to remember.
Sean, can you tell us about like how do you felt like when all of these topics started being like conversations that needed to be taken?
I mean, it's always an important thing to be kept in mind. You know, are you taking or are you, you know, paying homage to a culture
Right.
when you're taking elements of this and that? Simple as that.
Yes, and I think that some other topic around it's around it is like inclusion, no, inclusion, diversity. That I think that it's like another topic that it's really important and really beautiful to approach, because I don't know, the diversity in, you know, like identities immediately brings up identity diversity music wise, you know, public wise, aesthetic wise, and I think that it's really beautiful for the rave culture to have diversity, you know, like here in our culture, you know, like our community has benefited a lot with having different identities being together, you know. Still we have like a long way to go, because it's still, you know, really inclined to one thing or another, but it's really, really beautiful.
Hablando un poco del tema para toda la comunidad que nos está escuchando, hablando en términos de apropiación, preservación cultural y toda la temática relacionada al origen de la música footwork, estamos hablando de música jungle, música house, música techno, y el origen y pues todo el rastreo que hay de esta música en las culturas negras, ¿no? Estamos hablando de música negra que ha tenido una gran, un aspecto colaborativo más allá del aspecto racial, es decir, estamos hablando en términos de unidad, de diversidad, de igualdad, y es por eso que el tema viene tiene mucha fuerza, porque desde la pandemia y con el movimiento Black Lives Matter en Estados Unidos, todas las situaciones que ocurrieron durante el año 2020, pues han venido a reforzar una, vamos a decirlo así, como una necesidad no solamente de hablar de estos tópicos, sino de ejercerlos en la práctica de la producción musical, la organización de eventos, lineups cada vez más, también más equitativos, ¿no? Creo que podríamos discutir un poquito más sobre esta línea, en el aspecto de cómo este momento histórico ha modificado o ha cambiado las oportunidades, no solo en términos de raza, sino de género. Y no sé, o sea, creo que es un impacto que va más allá de esas dos cuestiones. No sé cómo podríamos abordarlo en la conversación.
We're talking about diversity here, and I would like to start like talking about diversity in Mexico, and then maybe we can talk about like Canada and the States and worldwide. I think that Mexico is like in a point where changes are being done, at least in small communities. In mainstream media and communities, definitely not much change going on, you know. But like small communities, small progressive communities that are creative, it's definitely been happening, not without criticism. But I think that Mexico City, in particular, has a lot to offer in terms of diversity. What do you think about like what's going on in Canada? For example, I know that Canada has like different cities where music is happening, particularly bass music. Do you think that diversity is being, I don't know, like approached?
We definitely, or at least speaking from Calgary, we don't have the amount of diversity that other cities have. There are always pushes, though, to encourage more diversity, whether that is the staffing of a music festival or whether that is the lineup of a club night. And it's very important. that these voices are amplified. And can you repeat the question one more time? I want to make sure I'm going in the right direction.
No,
here.
that's cool. Actually, you were just saying that Calgary might be missing some of the diversity that other cities have. Like, which other cities do you think?
Yeah, like there's definitely more diversity when you're going to larger cities like Toronto or
Okay.
Vancouver.
Toronto is actually the most. Toronto's the most ethnically diverse city in North America.
Okay.
And that's a Canadian city. Yeah.
Okay.
Queens, New York is the most ethnically diverse county.
Okay.
Toronto is the most ethnically diverse city.
Wow, interesting. And how do you see it happening in the club culture in the United States?
Well, I mean, all of a sudden I had a lot of friends who are Black producers from Bandcamp Friday who are able to survive from music,
Definitely.
like it kind of like that.
Yeah.
Because of a lot of the attention that was brought to the conversation. Some of them feel some type of way about it
Yes.
because they're like, oh, cool. So some guy like killed some guy in California and now all these people are sending me money. Like, that's weird. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I get that. It was kind of interesting for me, like with Worst Behavior, we kind of just stopped doing stuff because we didn't really know how to interact with it in a way that felt right. So we paused on releases and everything. Personally, my identity is complicated. I'm Black and Asian.
Right.
And so it was really, for me, like a weird identity because when you're a mixed race person, your whole life is an identity crisis.
Right.
You're not enough of this or enough of that. And, so a lot of that stuff personally came up for me. And I saw a lot of it happening socially, and talking to other friends about their experiences around it. So I will say that we're lucky. New York is really diverse and there has always been, at least in the underground club scene for sure, it's mostly highly represented of people of color and queer folk. And we're starting to see some of that change as well. There had been pushes to change that prior to a lot of the conversation being held right now. Like I would say, probably even me, because of my identity, maybe some of where I've gotten in the industry had to do with the fact that they, like in bass music in the United States, we don't have a lot of diversity. It's a lot of straight white dudes.
Yep.
So when people started thinking about that, because I am working in this way, I probably got a lot more opportunities than other people just because of my identity.
Yeah.
And it's how I feel about that. I'm grateful for the opportunities. And you want to show up and do your best, but there's also a part of you. I have turned down things when I felt like it was just tokenization.
Yeah. Can I ask, how do you perceive Mexico?
In terms of its diversity?
Yes.
Well, I guess what's funny is I was here last with one of my best friends. He had a piece of art being in the Mexico City Museum of Art. And so he asked me to come with him for like a few days. And we were having dinner, and then we were at a public park, and there was a big salsa band having like a concert in the park. And I was with my friend and we're dancing. He looks at me, he's like Peruvian and Greek. Okay. And he looks at me and he goes, my favorite thing is, we were both like just talking about how much we love Mexico City. And he's like, my favorite thing about Mexico is like, everyone is Mexican. Because we come from a place where it's really, really mixed, right?
Yes.
But he was like, it's really beautiful that you come here and you can see a lot of different, everybody looks kind of different and they're representing, like some people are brown, some people are white, like, whatever. But like at the end of the day, everyone is Mexican.
Yeah.
And I think that actually is very cool. Yeah.
Let me say something, because I'm feeling what are you saying, Anna, about this kind of identity crisis. I was there because, of course, I'm Mexican, but I don't consider myself as a Mexican dude, because we were talking about my last name, and that's no joke. U means Luna, means moon in Mayan. So Mayan, it's not about Mexican culture. It's it's ancestral culture. And for me, the pandemic, it was that kind of identity crisis, because I was feeling like I'm alone in the middle of a culture that don't give a shit about this kind of music. I mean, I'm producing Chicago footwork inspired tracks. I'm trying to make that kind of sounds, and my own culture, it's not supporting me. That was how I was feeling in that moment. I mean, in 2020. But now with all this new stuff happening, and all this shit happening right now, it's something new, because it's not about a crisis anymore. This is something new, because I'm feeling pretty grateful of being with you guys and sharing, because I'm feeling like finally we are getting into a new global family, and we are talking about Canada, we are talking about the States, and we are talking about Mexico. That it's like a big, I don't know how to say this, it's the same, but we have this idea that we are separated because the borders and that kind of shit. I don't know, how do you feel with that kind of we are getting closer now?
I think it's really important and great, that we're strengthening like the bond, because we're neighbors and we are sharing passion and we're sharing love. This is a thing bringing people together. And obviously, like when it comes to the sound, it's an international thing, right? But we are actually neighbors. We're right next door to each other. So we can do more together than when you're reaching all the way across oceans. So I think I'm very grateful to know everyone in this room, and also to have been working with people here. And even my experience of like last time I was here playing in UU, someone asked me like, how was your experience playing in Mexico City? And I was like, I didn't have to edit myself. In a lot of ways, when I play big festivals, I'm playing for audiences that I don't share a similar background with. So it's a lot of suburban white kids, and I'm coming from the Bronx. My family's Jamaican. And so I do kind of will make my sound something that's a little bit more rooted in like hip hop. Usually when I first start a set, it's more halftime stuff, because I know that they understand that before I go somewhere that's a little more wild and a little bit pushes them outside of their comfort zone. But in Mexico City, playing with you guys, I could just play how I felt, what I wanted in the moment, and I felt like people understood me, and that was a really validating experience.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I've also felt, especially, trying to use the sound in DJ sets and stuff like that, having to trick people into it. Like, I remember when I first started getting into it, I had this club night in Calgary back, I want to say 2012, 2013. And it was right when like trap was really big. And I remember just like building a crowd, playing a bunch of like Flostradamus or whatever, and then just trying to not clear the dance floor with some DJ Rashad tools or something like that.
Right.
I was not successful, minus maybe a few nights. But it still feels like that sometimes. It still does feel like you need to be like true to yourself, and like, you put yourself in a niche that has brought you to these heights, and you can't turn away from that. But you also need to, kind of show everybody your appreciation of the sound by bringing them into it kind of the way that you were brought into it, through other avenues.
Yeah, I think that bass culture in Mexico is resistance, like in this city, there's a huge electronic scene that is full-on techno music, and that is full-on consumed by people who are not locals. There's a lot of people flushing the city who come here and want a Berlin experience, for example, and there's a lot of people like offering that experience. So like 5 years ago, it was such a niche thing, like the bass music, and it is today. Like, I mean, we're really happy that now, like, we were like just meeting each other like 5 years ago, and right now we are like such good friends, like the community here. But still, it's like a small community, a small niche, you know. So it is beautiful, like kind of like to share these too, you know, to know that this not only happens in here but also like worldwide. And yeah, I just want to add that I don't know if you realize it, but Footwear Jungle, for many reasons, it uh, it represents something really important globally, you know, for the name of it, for the sound of it, for the work that you've been doing, and well, we really appreciate it. We follow it, and also really grateful to some of us have been part of it. Yes. So Footwear Jungle, let's fucking go. We also kind of wanted to talk, like we are right now in Ola Wave, as you can see, like a lot of gear around us. So we wanted to talk like some geek stuff. So, you know, some production stuff. I don't know, like what kind of software do you use? What kind of hardware do you use? What kind of code do you use? So if you can share with us some of your tips and tricks.
You want to start?
No.
Myself, I've been using Ableton for as long as I can remember.
Really?
There actually was a brief period when I first started, you know, playing with sound design where I was using FL Studio, but I like the openness of Ableton, so I
Right.
use that.
Bitwig, have you ever tried it?
Which?
Bitwig?
No, I don't even know what that is.
There's a lot of
Wait.
people. Yeah.
It's like a workstation?
Yeah, it's like an open source DAW.
Okay.
And it's what I've heard. I don't want to like change the topic.
Yeah, are they paying for this? Are they sponsors?
No, not at all, not at all. But like apparently it's like kind of like the whole Max for Live. You got it like natively there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Because I do like all the Max for Live Ableton stuff. Yeah.
Well, you should look into it. But yes, so your live hardcore live Ableton.
Live?
I
in
mean, like
Ableton?
Ableton, yeah.
Oh yeah, Ableton Live, yeah. So fully in Ableton for everything.
BSTs?
I've been warming up to like the native Ableton plugins
Right.
slowly, but for like the longest time, it's just been like you know, used Ableton as the workstation, and then just bring in, you know, your waves and your
Waves, of course.
I can't think of another one now, but yeah, I'll like the external like plugins and stuff like that. I've tried for quite a while just to like bring everything outside the box, try, you know, like mixing down on an outboard mixer, you know, pushing all the effects to, you know, an external delay or like an external reverb and whatnot. And I've kind of gone full circle. I'm back in the box.
Right.
I'm happy in the box. There's a lot less stuff.
What kind of hardware have you used? If you use some?
So I was like trying for the longest time to mix everything on a just like this outboard Yamaha mixer. I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
And it was just, it's too much extra stuff. It brought me out of the moment when I'm trying to like mix this stuff. I think like the only big hardware that has survived through this are just like, you know, outboard saturators. Actually, I think right now I have like a outboard saturator. I can't find a replacement VST that does what I want it to do.
What brand?
Yet. I'm using the Thermionic Culture Vulture just for just like general saturation, whether that's like, you know, adding excitement on the end of like while mastering a track.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
You know, doing some really distorted sound design.
That was actually my next question.
Okay.
Like, do you use it like on production or like on mastering?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah, lots of just like, you know, quick and like for me, I just do, you know, quick and dirty masters through the, you know, just pop up Ozone, get it done. I find the faster I do it, the better it turns out, or the better people like it anyways.
Yeah. Do you master your own stuff?
I do. Usually not, like when I'm doing it through a label, they want it
Right.
professionally mastered, but
Cool.
when I can, I try to just do it myself.
Yeah,
I know how I want it to sound. But
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. I mean, you wanna, for example, right here, ¿tú con qué produces?
Tractor.
Yeah, he makes his music with Tractor, you know?
Like
So-
the DJ.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Samples.
Like, he's one of the reasons why I say, like, hey, like, there's some people that say, like, yeah, like, I need to get this gear or this software, this computer, you know, to get started, like, to kick off my production. I'm like, yo, honestly, like, you can get started if you want to get started.
I had a friend who he wrote an entire album in like the Windows media player, or like no Windows like recorder, like whatever, like you know, the one that's like baked into Windows when you, but like the old Windows, but
really small model.
yeah, that like little just like audio recorder, and he made an entire and it was good. It was a great album. Yeah.
I just want to say that I don't know how to use Ableton, for example. I'm an asshole for use that kind of software.
What do you use?
I'm using Machine, only Machine, and it's total crazy because it's like my friends, producers. It's like, hey, bro, do you want to use my Ableton and stuff? It's like, bro, I don't know how to use it. Do you know how to use Alan? He's producing with Tractor, and that's, for me, it's so weird because it's like, how are you producing music with that kind of software? But it's interesting, and I just want to ask Alan, ¿cómo te sientes para esta noche, Alan? Para el toquín que vas a estar compartiendo con Ana Morgan y Homesick, güey. Suena una cosa irreal.
Pues nervioso, contento. Y pues tengo que estar concentrado definitivamente. No es fácil tener a dos capos del bass music. Y pues contento también de tener a toda la familia reunida, a ustedes, MOVELIKE, representando MX. Principalmente, yo creo que, bueno, no les entendí al 100%, pero lo que puedo entender, yo creo que necesitaremos muchísimo tiempo como para yo dar mi punto de vista referente a este tema, porque es muy amplio. Pero yo creo que Ana y Homesick son unas piezas muy elementales dentro de la comunidad del bass music, y vaya, en este caso del footwork o del jungle específicamente. Y bueno, personalmente creo que para mí son unos artistas muy, muy, muy chidos, que les he seguido siempre sus pasos, y yo creo que desde que yo empecé a involucrarme más allá sobre estos géneros, o bueno, en especial el footwork jungle, creo que ellos fueron la primera fuente a la que llegué, ¿no? Y no tanto porque estuviera tanto a la mano, pero sí que eran los más responsables en explotar y difundir este movimiento, ¿no? Más allá de que en la actualidad, vaya, el footwork que viene de Chicago y que es originario de Chicago y todo esto, yo creo que el hecho de que en otros países haya explotado un experimento, el resultado de un experimento, que en este caso es el footwork jungle, pues no es tan, para mí, no me importa tanto. Vaya, no quiero sonar mala onda ni nada, pero definitivamente sí me gusta como llegar más allá y decir, ¿sabes qué? El footwork sí es de Chicago, pero no podemos ser tan egoístas y decir, oye, pues nada más es de acá, ¿no? Ajá, porque yo creo que precisamente por eso llega a otras partes, incluso a México, y todos tomamos las cosas como queremos, ¿no? Claro. Y las desarrollamos como queremos. Claro. Entonces, pues sí, muy chido de que estén aquí, sin más que agregar, la verdad. Genial. Necesitaría mucho tiempo más, pero qué bueno que están aquí todos. Muchas gracias. Creo que están allá afuera.
Hay que... Decía por ahí, Alan was saying like, yeah, like, I don't know, like he's really grateful for being with you guys. Like he's been following me in the footwork jungle really closely for a while. That it's like maybe one of his most important references. So yeah, like as I was saying, like the work that the footwork jungle does transcends, like any border. I think that like you're listening here, this right here in Mexico City, and our community is really grateful for the footwork jungle work. But I bet like this same conversation it's been taken in India and in Europe and all around the world. So let's hit it.
Maybe the final question for this interview. What are you expecting for tonight?
I love how Anna has described the crowds and the energies here. I'm hoping for more of that, whatever that is.
Okay, that's right. And you, Anna, how are you feeling for the show?
I honestly I try not to expect much, because sometimes like you can set yourself up and think like, oh, this is going to be like this or this is going to be like that. And then you have a different experience. So I just remain open to whatever it is that like the experience wants to share with me. But I will say I'm excited and to return to a place where I had such a good time before and to play with my friends. And I also wanted to say the first few things I ever made, I made in Serato, with like recording samples on top of each other. Yeah, and when I told like my friend like Dr. Jeep, he was like, well, "How did you make this?" And I was like, "Oh, I made it in Serato." He was like, "Well, what?" But
that's a pretty cool technique.
yeah.
I was trying the other day something like that. Yeah, putting the loop on Serato and like sampling. That's a pretty nice
It's
technique.
like dubbing, basically.
Yeah.
It's dubbing. Mhm.
Do you want to share something else? Maybe it's time to say thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Thanks
Ana,
for having us.
Anna, it's a pleasure. Please, we are very excited. We said it, and this is a very special moment for our Footworks and Networks radio show. And this broadcasting on Blast Radio. Dije Blast Radio? Sí. Blast Radio. On a year, that's crazy because Blast Radio, they are supporting us right now with this radio show, Footworks and Networks, and we are so proud and we are feeling so grateful with the station because, of course, they love Chicago footwork culture and all the networks between. So I think they're gonna be so happy with this interview when it's done. So thank you very much, both of you. Thank you very much for your energy and your presence. Do you want to add something for our crowd?
I guess I just want to thank you guys so much for having us out here, hearing how our work with Footwork Jungle has inspired is like exactly why I made it in the first place. So that's wonderful. I love to hear it.
Thank you. You, Anna, do you want to say something else?
Yeah, just like more of this, the conversation we had about the connection between, like Canada and US and Mexico. And I think just more of this. We want more of this.
Perfecto. Thank you very much.
Vamos a cenar.
Que nos hacen programa para en una manera, en un formato más presentable. Bueno, muchas gracias a era Juke Dealer que estaba en su celular.
Huge shout out a Regalito, Puro Mazamitla, y a Gustavo, Puro Burger Gang, Chicks. Puro Burger Gang, a.k.a. Chicks. Regalito, todo chido. Muchas gracias por sintonizar. Bye.